Imagine trying to admire both Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau at the same time. It's nearly impossible. The two leaders represent polar opposites in almost every conceivable way. Trudeau, a self-proclaimed globalist, famously declared that Canada is the world's first post-national state. Trump, on the other hand, built his political empire on a nationalist slogan, America First.
It's going to be only America first. America first.
These contrasting worldviews created the perfect storm for an intense rivalry, one that spilled over into trade wars, public insults, and even awkward diplomatic blunders. From the moment Trump took office for the first time, it became clear that Trudeau's polished image and preference for virtue signaling wouldn't sit well with Trump's brash, unfiltered style. As the tension escalated, the rift between the two leaders began to shape US-Canada relations like never before. But was it all ideology, or were there deeper forces at play? Let's find out. The drama began in earnest in 2017, when Trump invited Trudeau to Washington for their first official meeting. On the surface, things seemed cordial. They even announced the formation of the Canada-United States Council for Advancement of Women Entrepreneurs and Business Leaders. But beneath the smiles lay an undercurrent of unease. Trump had already signaled his intent to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, branding it the worst trade deal ever made. For Trump, NAFTA symbolized everything wrong with globalization, lost American jobs, and unfair trade practices. His primary grievance with Canada? The country's supply management system for dairy, eggs, and poultry that imposed steep tariffs on US imports. To Trump, this was blatant exploitation. If we can't make a deal, it'll be terminated, he warned in his signature no-nonsense style, and that'll be fun. Trudeau, however, was not about to dismantle a system that farmers in key provinces like Ontario and Quebec depended on. His resistance set the stage for a grueling battle. Trump, ever the dealmaker, wasn't about to back down. Then, by 2018, he imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian steel and a 10% tariff on aluminum, plunging relations to a new low. The move shocked many Canadians, given the long-standing economic partnership between the two nations. And for Trudeau, it was a political crisis. Now, how could Canada respond without escalating tensions further? You see, Trump's tariffs strategically targeted industries vital to Canada's economy, especially in liberal strongholds. The impact was immediate, with businesses in sectors like steel and aluminum facing higher costs and uncertainty. Now, forced to act, or I better say react, Trudeau's government retaliated with its own tariffs on US imports, including steel, aluminum, and even iconic American products like ketchup and whiskey. These tariffs are totally unacceptable, Trudeau declared during a press conference. Canadians will not be pushed around. Trump, true to form, fired back. En route to Singapore for a historic summit with Kim Jong-un, he tweeted from Air Force One, PM Justin Trudeau of Canada acted so meek and mild during our G7 meetings, only to give a news conference after I left. Very dishonest and weak. The personal nature of the attack stunned political observers. It was rare for a US president to insult a Canadian prime minister so openly. But let me tell you here, Trump's tweet was just the beginning. The feud turned personal, with both leaders digging in their heels. And analysts began to question whether this rift could cause long-term damage to US-Canada relations. All right, as tensions over trade escalated, they spilled over into broader diplomatic relations, culminating in a dramatic showdown at the G7 summit. The 2018 G7 summit in Quebec was just supposed to showcase unity among world leaders. Instead, it highlighted the growing animosity between Trump and Trudeau. Initially, things appeared amicable. Trump even described their relationship as very good. But Trudeau's post-conference remarks about Canada not being pushed around were the final straw for Trump. What followed was a diplomatic debacle. Trump withdrew his support for the joint G7 communique, an unprecedented move. Justin probably didn't know that Air Force One has about 20 televisions. Trump later quipped, "I see him giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around. I said, push him around? We just shook hands." You see, the fallout from the summit was immediate, where Canadian officials scrambled to contain the damage, while American media criticized Trump's behavior as undiplomatic. The incident, in fact, underscored just how far the feud had escalated. Moving on. Then, the summer of 2018 saw Canada, the US, and Mexico locked in intense negotiations to replace NAFTA. For Trudeau, the stakes couldn't have been higher as the Canadian economy relied heavily on access to US markets, and any disruption could spell disaster. Trump's administration, however, was openly hostile. At one point, Trump refused to meet with Trudeau, citing Canada's unwillingness to lower tariffs. Negotiators on both sides worked tirelessly, often into the early hours of the morning. The tension was palpable, with Trump threatening to impose additional tariffs on Canadian auto exports if a deal wasn't reached. Eventually, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, was signed in September 2018. While Trudeau managed to preserve key elements of NAFTA, he had to make concessions on Canada's dairy sector. The deal was hailed as a victory for Trump, who framed it as a fulfillment of his campaign promise to renegotiate unfair trade deals. However, the steel and aluminum tariffs lingered, a reminder of the lingering animosity. Trudeau described the negotiations as the most difficult trade talks Canada has ever faced. By 2019, tensions between Trump and Trudeau had reached absurd levels. At a NATO summit in London, Trump publicly called Canada slightly delinquent for not meeting NATO's 2% GDP defense spending target. Trudeau, visibly annoyed, attempted to defend Canada's contributions, pointing out that Canada had consistently participated in NATO missions. Later that evening, Trudeau was caught on camera gossiping about Trump with other world leaders, including Emmanuel Macron and Boris Johnson. The clip went viral, showing Trudeau joking about Trump's lengthy press conferences. However, when asked about it, Trump called Trudeau two-faced. The incident, while humorous to some, highlighted the lack of trust between the two leaders. It was a stark contrast to the camaraderie traditionally seen between US and Canadian leaders. Getting further in the discussion, Trump's dislike for Trudeau wasn't just political. It was deeply personal. Surprised? Don't be. During a dinner at Mar-a-Lago, Trump once quipped that Canada should become the 51st state if it couldn't stop exploiting the US, with Trudeau as its governor no less. Trudeau could be its governor, Trump quipped, drawing laughter from the room. Adding fuel to the fire, Trump's allies also took shots at Trudeau. Michael Waltz, Trump's pick for National Security Advisor, criticized Trudeau's handling of the Freedom Convoy protests in 2022. Waltz even endorsed Pierre Poilievre, Trudeau's political rival, tweeting, "This guy is going to send Trudeau packing in 2025. Such comments underscored the extent to which the feud had transcended politics, becoming a personal vendetta. Anyways, if you guys think it's over, then you must be mistaken. The most recent chapter in this saga revolves around border security. Trump has accused Trudeau of failing to address the flow of illegal migrants and fentanyl across the US-Canada border. To pressurize Canada in this regard, Trump threatened a 25% tariff on all Canadian exports. Trudeau reportedly flew to Mar-a-Lago in a last-ditch effort to resolve the issue. While details of the meeting remain scarce, sources indicate that discussions were tense. The border crisis, much like the trade disputes before it, highlighted the friction between the two leaders. So, you see, from trade wars to public insults, the Trump-Trudeau rivalry has been anything but ordinary. While their ideological differences were the initial spark, their clashing personalities turned this into one of the most memorable political feuds of the 21st century. This isn't just a story about two leaders. It's a reflection of broader trends in global politics. Nationalism versus globalism, populism versus progressivism. As the world watched, Trump and Trudeau became symbols of these opposing forces, their feud capturing the attention of millions. With Trump now back in the White House, the dynamics between the US and Canada could undergo another shift. While it's tempting to assume the feud will continue, both nations have much to gain from collaboration on key issues like trade, energy, and border security. However, given their tumultuous history, any rapprochement will likely require significant effort and compromise from both sides. Only time will tell if these two neighbors can move beyond their political and personal differences to forge a more productive partnership. Their feud wasn't just a clash of personalities. It symbolized the growing divide between nationalist and globalist ideologies shaping our world today.